Hi, everybody. Welcome to the As You Are podcast. My name is Leslie Vandergens. I'm the founder of Enso Coaching and Consulting, and I'm here with one of our amazing coaches, Libby Detling.
Hello.
Welcome, Libby.
Hey, thanks.
And we're also here with the amazing Ryan DeBoer. Ryan is the CEO of the Shape Sensing Company, correct?
Yes, I am.
That's
Thank you
awesome.
very much for having me.
Awesome. So yeah, we're really excited to have you and to talk to you a little bit about the organization and your role as the CEO of this like really incredible organization. We're really excited to chat.
Great.
Awesome. Well, can you just give us a little bit of an understanding of what the Shape Sensing Company is?
Sure. Yeah, so we are a med tech startup based here in Austin over in the Westlake Hills area. And we're building a 3D navigation system based on a very cool technology called fiber optic shape sensing. It originally has its roots in NASA, and it allows us to show the location of a device inside the body in real time for a user. So our primary customers will be physicians who are performing minimally invasive procedures. They'll be able to see the location of devices without using X-ray. So they can perform these procedures with greater precision, faster, safer.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so if I'm like a doctor and you're talking to me about this this new med tech device, what are some of the benefits that I would see in what you guys are producing?
Sure. Yeah. Doctors in particular have a very specific benefit that come from this, and that's the reduction of radiation. So interventional doctors stand at the bedside of patients in procedures all day long, every day of their career, getting radiated from the X-ray machine.
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
And they in particular need protection from that. So our technology is going to allow them to perform these procedures mostly without X-ray, greatly reduced. So that's their largest benefit. But
Awesome.
they also will have better precision because they're using 3D. So X-rays inherently are two-dimensional, and they're taking pictures of 3D structures, whether it's the devices or our bodies themselves. So they're trying to navigate these devices in two-dimensional views of three-dimensional objects. So by providing three-dimensional visualization, they're able to do this faster, more efficiently.
Oh, that's awesome. And so
That's cool.
so what are some of the things like the benefits of being able to have like this 3D viewpoint into the body or wherever it is?
Sure. Yeah. So it's all about context of devices with respect to the anatomy. So X-ray doesn't show soft tissue anatomy. It'll show bones, right? But it can't show you vessels.
Right.
The majority of devices that they're navigating are going through vessels of some sort, whether it's endoscopy or endovascular procedures. And the two-dimensional visualization is a flat view. So there's no depth. So if a doctor wanted to advance and then go into the picture, they wouldn't know if they're going in the right direction because it's a 2D flat image, right? So by having three-dimensional views, they can have two simultaneous views of different angles and rotate it around. They can actually see which direction they're pointing and navigate the device more efficiently.
Oh my gosh. So
That's
like
cool.
your ability to catch stuff happens like more effectively, and your ability to see the whole part of the body or the whole part of the anatomy.
They know exactly what the entire shape of the device is doing in three-dimensional views rather than flat pictures.
It's so interesting because I think as you're talking about this, I'm thinking about space.
Yeah. That's one of her favorite subjects.
I do like geek out a little bit around astronomy. But I do think about space because sometimes, the perspective that we as like humans have on Earth is like we're looking up into the space and we see it as like, boop, like it's just, this is the image. And the reality is that it's like so much more dynamic than what we can even like kind of comprehend or perceive. And so like, I think about that image of like what we think is like the planets rotating around the sun when in actuality, the like sun's like jetting this way. And then you have all of the planets that are moving too. So like, that's kind of what I'm thinking about when you're talking about that.
Yeah, that's such a great analogy. Looking in the sky, you look at two stars and you think, oh, there's that one and that one. They're probably right next to each other.
Yeah.
And you don't realize that one could be 10 million light years away from the other, right? But we just have this flat image that we see. It's the exact same thing with doctors trying to navigate devices on flat images.
That's so interesting. I just think back. I mean, Leslie, you know this, that my oldest daughter, when she was born, she had a surgery. The plates in her skull were not fully formed. And so she had a surgery. And it went really well. But part of it is, she does follow up, like just to make sure everything is great. And there was one year that we went to follow up that they, we had done all the scans and stuff. And they're like, we don't know, but there might be some spots where the bone has not filled in correctly. And the headache of having to go, then we had to go for like special imaging and do all this other stuff, which it's already hard enough to get a kid to, you don't really want to do the sedated version if you don't have to.
Totally. Yeah.
But like having them lay still and do the thing. And it ended up being nothing, thank God. But like it, how that could have saved time. It could have money, stress. I mean, that's like, so stressful when they have to get those scans.
Yeah, it really speaks to the overall need for us to find ways to make procedures faster.
Yeah.
Right? The faster they are, the safer they are, fewer complications can occur, and the faster the recovery time.
Yeah.
And like X-ray technology, it's been around for a really long time. Like it seems like we're like aching for a new option.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy actually. So X-ray has been used for 130 years. It was started in the late 1800s.
Yeah.
It's longer than I thought, but
yeah.
The very first year that they discovered X-ray and they made the first X-ray, they already knew that it was dangerous. Mm-hmm. People were getting sick already.
Oh my God.
We are 130 years later. We're still using it as a therapy. Mm-hmm. We are trying to help people using something that we know hurts them.
Oh
and hurts the doctors even more.
Yeah.
It's kind of
But
absurd.
it's the only option, right?
It is the only option.
Yeah.
I mean, when you go in there and they're like, put on this lead vest, good luck. You're like, this can't be great.
I know. Yeah. Even you can go into a dentist's office or, right? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. Okay. So we want to talk about the company a little bit more, but also like curious about your journey to like becoming the CEO of this company. So can you tell us a little bit about where you came from and what your path was to get here?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I was originally an electrical engineer in college. And when I graduated, I knew I didn't want to be the person who actually does the engineering, but I didn't know what I wanted to do.
That's good.
So I was fortunate. I was recruited by a med tech company called St. Jude Medical.
Never heard of it. I'm just kidding.
Who?
Yeah. Well, they're no longer around. So now they were bought by Abbott. But so St. Jude recruited me to be on their pacemaker representation field team, basically. So I was hired to go into the field and help doctors with pacemaker implants.
Wow.
So that was kind of my first step out of college and thrown into this industry. And that's when I first learned about X-ray as well, because I was in these procedures and we were wearing lead aprons and protective thyroid collars and doing everything we could to reduce our radiation exposure. But that was my first job out of college, and it was a great transition from the engineering background that I had, but without actually wanting to be an engineer. It gave me the engineering aspect of the sales side. So that was great. So I did that for several years before switching companies, went to Boston Scientific, continued to work in the field in both pacemaker defibrillators and another field of electrophysiology, where doctors go in and actually make tiny little burns in the heart to fix arrhythmias. So that was 15 years of my career was on the med tech side, kind of giving me a good base there. And then I joined a digital health startup called Rhythm Science. And I led commercial in the central region for them. And it was a small company, and I helped grow basically from nothing. I think I was employee number 5 or so. So I was really getting my feel for the startup world. So that was my med tech transition. But then in the middle there, I actually started a small company of my own, totally outside of med tech, in consumer goods. And I had a small team underneath me building this company that kind of plateaued during COVID, as things did.
Yeah.
But fast forward and putting it all together, I was then recruited by this company to come in and join as the CEO. So looking at my med tech background, small company experience, plus the digital health commercialization, kind of put it all together, formed the right experience to kind of help take this technology into the med tech industry.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so when you were working in these kind of med tech companies and then went into that startup with that growth trajectory, what are some of the key things that you really learned and took away from those experiences?
Great question. Oh, let me think about that one.
Yeah.
So growing a startup from nothing takes a lot.
Mhm.
So my previous role was within major med tech organizations. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
St. Jude Medical, Boston Scientific, all the resources in the world,
Right.
Yes.
plus the brand recognition. Right?
Mhm,
You're
mhm.
starting from such a place of strength when you go walk into those negotiations and sales meetings that I think a lot of people might take it for granted, as maybe I did a little bit.
Totally.
But jumping into the startup world, now I'm introducing a new company, a new product, a new team, all brand new aspects to the business that nobody has ever heard of.
Mhm.
So it takes a lot to start a company and grow it into something big. So
Totally.
a lot of lessons learned about the different needs of startups versus the larger companies.
Yeah. What would you say? I mean, if you could like pinpoint a differentiator between like, okay, this is a challenge that I experience with some of these larger companies, and then this is like a big challenge that I experience with these startups. What would you say those are?
I would say for the challenge for the startups is the foot in the door.
Right.
How do you get the first meeting?
Yeah.
Because
Right.
nobody's ever heard of you. Nobody's ever heard of your company, right?
Mhm.
A challenge with the bigger company is a lot of times there's bureaucracy behind decision making and things
yeah.
things move slowly.
Yeah.
And it's just it comes with the territory, and you do get a lot of resources, but making things move can be challenging.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, we've experienced some of that because I think Libby and I both came from, a large organization where there is a lot of resources, there's a lot of
Red tape.
and a lot of red tape. And like, you don't realize, I think in those moments, you don't realize, because this organization's been around for so many years, there's infrastructure that exists. There are things like frameworks that the organization's working off of. And, and again, like just monetary resources, there's just so much. And you kind of take some of that for granted moving into kind of the startup world. And then you're just seeing how impactful even just having some of those baseline frameworks or just having the monetary resources is helpful and sustaining and continuing to perpetuate. Whereas like, the startup world is like, you got to do everything. Everybody's got to do everything. And, we got to get to this threshold in order to hire more people to get to the next threshold. And
We're
it's
literally just talking about
yeah,
it.
we really were, and so it is, I mean, it's just such an interesting thing. And I think there are, humans to compliment you, like there are a lot of humans that kind of stick in one area. They'll like stay in that like large bureaucracy infrastructure world and like really thrive there. And then there are some people who just like they're like serial startup people and they just go from startup to startup to startup. And so just, you kind of having experience in both of those areas is probably a huge benefit to the organization.
Yeah, and I feel very fortunate to have had the opportunity. I actually started my small business while I was working at the large companies, and it gave me the taste.
Yeah.
Right? The taste of what it's like to run your business, make all the decisions, also have all the challenges.
Yeah.
Right? You're in charge of everything. But that really opened my eyes to what it could be, and there's no doubt that influenced my decision to go to a startup post medtech. Yeah.
Well, what did you like about it? What did you like about the startup?
Which startup? My startup?
Yeah.
Or-
Yeah. When you said I got a little taste of it, and that caused you to go to another startup after that.
Growing something that I built. Feeling proud, like everything that's going on here is because of the work that I've put in and to be able to see the fruits of your labor. Whereas in major med tech, there's sometimes harder to see the end result of the things that you're building, right? It was a lot of accountability, but when everything comes together, it's because of the hard work you put in.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you say that you figured that out through the process of osmosis, like where you were like working in it and then you realized it? Or do you think that was something that you've always known about yourself?
It's definitely something I've always known.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have hobbies that I like that are very much because of this aspect. Things like just seem simple, but yard work, where you put in the work and then you look at it and it's done and it's beautiful, right? Yeah. Or building a set of shelves where you start from a pile of wood and it turns into this shelf, and it's not beautiful when I build it, but it's at least functional.
Yeah.
And you can see, before and after, and the work you put in resulted in something tangible.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. Totally.
I love that.
Okay. So now we get to the shape sensing company. You come in and they're like, okay, here's your task list, or here's your to-do list, or here's where we're going to hold you accountable. What were some of those things that you were kind of handed for the organization?
Sure. Yeah, I was really fortunate in that we, as I came in, I was replacing a CEO who had started the company and he was staying on as executive chairman.
Awesome.
They brought me in for my expertise in the medtech industry.
Mm-hmm.
So in doing so, he wasn't going anywhere, which was great. So we were able to transition nicely, and we had a 6-month transition before I officially took over as CEO. So that helped make it a nice, smooth transition into that position. But at that point, it was, I'm in charge of everything, as you would expect with a CEO, right?
Right.
In terms of personnel and finances and technology plan and partnerships. But I was immediately thrown in at that point to being responsible for the entirety of it.
Yeah. And so in kind of taking all of that on, what would you say was like the biggest priority, or what was the thing that you were like,
where do you
I have to tackle this first?
Yeah. So we started to finish, right? What our goal is, and that's partnerships with companies that can help us bring our technology to the market. So my focus from day one was establishing more partnerships with major medical organizations that want to use our technology to change healthcare. So that was my biggest priority, and I spent most of my time doing that, and I still do spend most of my time doing that. And we've had a lot of successes, and it continues to boil up to a point where we're in a really good place now because of it.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so how did you go about, like, how did you say, okay, from a partnership standpoint, here's what we're going to do, or these are the things that we're going to focus on? What did that look like?
Starting from square one, what is the technology? How can it help? And where could this even go to start with, right? So, my background is in pacemakers, which is cardiology, electrophysiology, but I also have general knowledge of different healthcare interventions. So I started with a spreadsheet. I said, what types, right? Engineer, right? Start with a spreadsheet. What types of procedures could this benefit? When I came in, they had done some market research, so I had a little bit to start with, which is nice. But then I said, okay, these are the things we could do. These are all the companies that play in that space. Do we have connections anywhere? And then for those that we didn't, or those that we did, to start connecting, using my network, using LinkedIn is always great.
Hey, that's my favorite place.
And just building connections throughout the medtech industry to help form those partnerships.
Yeah. So in doing that, in this like first iteration, what were some of you just mentioned there were some like really great successes. Like, what were some of the really great successes that you had in kind of going down this path?
Sure. So we, I have to think about what I can say. Right?
Oh yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So the biggest successes is we do have 2 major medical companies that are now customers of ours, which when I came in, we had 6. So jumping to 8, it's a huge win for us. But outside of that, we've made we've made connections with several others who are still interested in seeing where technology is going and trying to figure out where it might fit into their roadmaps.
Oh, that's awesome. And so, so in those successes and in kind of this process, like, what are some things that you've kind of learned, or some challenges that you faced along the way, and kind of differentiating this?
Great question. One of the things I would say I've learned is that it takes a village, right? These companies are very large, and as we talked about, things can move slowly. And the more contact points that we have at each institution allows for the vision to be better described internally.
Yeah.
So I may find someone who is super gung-ho about the technology, and it doesn't go anywhere. But if I have 10 people who are just so-so gung-ho about the technology, but we can make things move.
Yeah.
So I've learned that it's selling into big companies and creating these partnerships. It is casting a wide net, of course, and grabbing the attention of as many different players and different positions within the company as possible to make sure it gets noticed in the right places.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine. I mean, and it also feels like there's a lot that you can't control, like there's like so much that you can control, but then there's also like so much that is left to the consumer or whoever you're looking to partner with.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. And that comes with some acceptance.
Yeah.
We can do everything in the world. We could tell the greatest story. They could even see the vision, but because of different policies, it may not go anywhere. Which is why we want to have as many partnerships as possible, right?
Yeah.
Because we know that this is going to be successful. And if we just find the right customer, the right partner, that's what's going to get it across the finish line.
Yeah. Well, what's that been like for you? Like as somebody who's leading the organization and just being like, okay, we're going to cast a wide net. We're going to try to make as many partnerships as we possibly can. Some of them are going to engage, some of them aren't. What is that journey like for the CEO who's having to say, okay, we're going to tackle as much as we possibly can, and we're going to stay optimistic about it, and then kind of going through the roller coaster of the no's. Yeah. I mean, what's that like for you?
It is a roller coaster, no doubt. It's been great in getting to know a bunch of different people at different organizations. My network is now so much larger because of this outreach. But it is frustrating. When I see the vision, I'm able to relay that the vision. They see the vision, and it doesn't go anywhere. It can be frustrating. I know this can be impactful for patient care in the end, right?
Oh, no kidding.
And getting a big company to move on something like that and not being successful is certainly frustrating.
Yeah. So how do you, what does that look like for the team? Because, you just kind of mentioned it takes a village. And how do you keep the team motivated, excited, engaged?
Bought into the vision and still feeling like
we're making progress. What does that look like?
Yeah. So the progress we're making makes it easy for us.
Good.
As we establish these partnerships and they get to see what the partners are planning for the technology, and these guys have been working on this technology for years, and they see it as a core technology that has a ton of potential. But now they're getting this introduction to the medtech space and seeing what these companies want to do with it and how impactful it can be, and it just takes their excitement to another level. So, not surprising. Progress breeds excitement, right? So it's really been about just keeping them in the loop, and then they're in the front lines talking to our customers once we get these partnerships, that they're working with them saying, oh wow, you could do this and this, and seeing the excitement on our customers' faces when they introduce technology.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's we've been fortunate.
That's awesome.
There's something about small companies where your people, your employees, the team members, they have the ability to see the product of the work that they're actually doing. Because again, going back to kind of that differentiator between big organization and small organization, when they can actually tangibly experience what the impact looks like it's huge.
Yeah, and especially with a small team, right? Because everybody sees what everybody else is doing too, and everyone's pretty much involved in each aspect of it. Because it's a team and everyone has different strengths. So we all work together to get something done. So when one person has a success, it's everybody's success.
Yeah. Amazing.
And that helps keep them excited as well. It may not have been their specific project. They helped a lot on this project, and now that's done, and look what it is.
Oh, I love that.
I love it too.
Well, so what, I mean, CEO, Shape Sense and Company, what kind of culture are you trying to, that's a big deal. We talk a lot about leadership. We talk a lot about culture, and, what are you looking to build inside of this organization?
It all comes down to excitement and positivity for me. And that I'm fortunate that we just have an amazing team. They are so smart. And primarily engineers. And despite engineering, or despite what people often think about engineers,
I love an engineer.
they are also very creative, especially R&D engineers, which is the majority of our team. And empowering them to have and giving them the freedom to explore within their worlds allows them to be excited, right? It's not go solve this problem. It is, go solve this equation. It is go figure out this problem, right? Come up with a solution. Be creative. And I think by empowering them to do so, really allows them to be free and not feel restricted, and that just breeds productivity.
Oh my God. Yes. The ability for somebody to stay connected to something because you've given them a problem to solve and then they have the solution or they have the answer. There's like a deep level of ownership.
And they can be creative in the way they're not told exactly how to get there.
Yeah.
But
yeah. End result. Right. I mean, we've been talking a lot about this too, like the end, whatever the end result is, like, what is it that you're trying to obtain, and then allow people the creativity to actually get there. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love that. Okay. So, so what is next? Like because obviously you guys are kind of in the throes of, identifying these partnerships and, essentially figuring out where the shape sensing company is going to take you. Like when you're thinking about what's next, what comes up for you?
Yeah, we're at a very exciting time right now. So we are fundraising right now. We're raising around to support the work with our partners over the next years. But really what our time is focused on is two things. One, we're finishing up our prototype system. This is our second generation prototype, and that's going to be what we build into all these fancy products,
cool.
the next generation systems. So we're finishing that up by the end of the year. And then at the same time, we're negotiating what next year is going to look like. So we have 8 customers today. We have several others that we're talking to who are interested in products, and we're trying to figure out what are the first things that shape sensing is going to go into in 2025. So the very immediate future is negotiation. And then as soon as January, we're going to be building real products that are going to have a real impact on patients.
Oh my gosh.
So cool.
That's really exciting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So can you talk, just for people who don't know, what is... Can you talk a little bit about a prototype? Like what goes into kind of building the prototype, and what do people expect from that?
Yeah. So our team is just amazing, right? The technology originally came out of NASA. I think I may have mentioned that at the beginning. And that portion of it is all a processor. And the processor is what analyzes the signal. So we have to create a prototype processor that takes in the information from the device and outputs some data that allows us to show it on the screen, right? So the prototype is as simple as a connection in and an output out.
Oh, wow.
Working on a desktop with medical grade accuracy and ready to be turned into whatever iteration we need to for our customers.
Okay. So
I feel really smart just sitting here, being on the couch, taking that information in and understanding it.
It's, so what are the challenges? Because I'm assuming obviously like the fundraising challenge is a huge challenge and like constantly being able to like find the means to, make all of these things happen. In addition to just that, what are some of the big challenges that you guys are facing in trying to get this thing built?
Resources generally in a small company can be challenging. Our engineering team, they do everything, right?
Yeah.
So when we have sales are great, but the engineers are now operations people, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it's an all hands on deck to do everything within the company, and there's only so many resources. So in an ideal world, we would hire 10 more engineers and 5 operations people to support this. But for now, it's getting the job done with the people that we have.
That's really hard.
Yeah.
And how does a team, I mean, like you keep talking about how talented they are, and like, how do they respond to kind of having to like put all hats on and just do whatever it takes, whatever it needs to get done?
Well, with the place we are in the company and the potential we have and the fact that they all see it, they love it. They are more than willing to just get the job done, whatever it takes. So there's no pushback. This is what has to get done, and we're going to do it. And then on to the next thing.
That says so much just about your leadership. I think that is in so many organizations when employees are not able to see what the end goal is or what they're working towards. And then they're upset because people, won't get on board and they don't want to, roll up their sleeves and get their hands dirty. But so much of it is just communicating your vision and having a clear vision. And especially, with engineers is like letting them see what the end product is and letting them see how it affects people is huge.
Yeah.
So, that's amazing.
Thank you. I definitely look at that as one of my biggest responsibilities is to show the team why we're doing this.
Yeah.
And, whether that's physically and the types of products we can build, or just the broader vision of where this is going to go and how it's really going to impact patient care in the end. And that's why they brought me in to help provide that vision.
Yeah.
And then outside of that, kind of get out of their way, because they are just so talented that my goal is to just make sure they have the resources necessary to do what they need to do and remove as many obstacles as I can.
What has caused you to be that kind of a leader?
Having a great team is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
I don't need to handhold. I can have a high level vision. It's when you have the right team, things are a lot easier for the leader, right?
For sure.
So I was fortunate that I came into having a great team. I certainly look to build on it as we have more funds to do so. But I was just super fortunate that the Shape Sensing Company had just such a strong group of engineers and responsible people working for them already.
Yeah. Okay, so as you build out and you continue to bring people on, how are you going to make sure that you continue to bring the right people on, the people that are kind of aligned with the group as a whole? That's always, obviously, a challenge when you're starting to grow or getting into that growth mode, is like really protecting that culture, that core group.
Absolutely. Yeah. So comes down to talent and fit are going to be the two biggest evaluations of future potential hires. That we have to have people who know what they're doing and fit in well with the team. One without the other is not only worthless, but could be detrimental.
Yeah.
Right? So really making sure we're picking the right people who have the right experience, but also fit in.
Yeah.
That's when we just talked to Vincent on our on the call that we did previously, and we were talking about how, people that are talented, a lot of times they think that the talent trumps like being a hardworking, nice person. But really, it is this balance of, you could bring someone in that is super talented and can, do anything that you want. But if they don't have that, if they don't fit in with the team, if they don't come with the right kind of hardworking attitude, it can absolutely... It just takes one to kind of
to
ruin everything. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think Simon Sinek talks about how like you have to measure culture as much as you measure productivity. Like they're 50-50 equals. And we spend so much time on the productivity, the end result, the goals, all of those things, the key metrics, KPIs, whatever, OKRs, whatever you want to call it. And then, and not any time on how are we measuring, like, what does that look like? What does a culture look like?
Well, we take time every week to talk about culture. It's an important part of our weekly meeting that we talk about where are we going right with culture and where could we use some improvements.
Interesting.
We kind of call it our behaviors, and making sure that we are staying on task with not just the engineering projects, but also with the company we want to build.
And what does that look like? Like, what are some of the specifics that you guys kind of center that talk around?
So we have a list of our top behaviors.
Great.
And things like being accountable. Actually, it's more specific than that. Bringing a solution with the problem, right?
Love it.
Yeah. Acting outside your comfort zone. Things like this. We've got a list of 10, and we talk through each week where our wins are with our behaviors, and then if we have any shortcomings as well.
Wow.
And then we are encouraged to call others out to make sure we're all accountable for one another.
Wow. And how do you have that conversation? So I love this.
I know.
How do you have that conversation just around areas where you or the team or the group as a whole might be lacking? What does that look like in a productive way? Because I'm assuming there's a lot of vulnerability.
Absolutely.
In that.
So we're very careful not to call people out in a way that would make them feel bad. If there are things that need to be addressed, we'll address them in private. The executive team, on the other hand, we're very honest with each other, right? That's where we have to be brutally honest and make sure that we're bringing out all of the potential problems. That's how we're going to make sure we're successful. But for the most part, again, we're fortunate. We're in such a strong team that the majority of our conversations are all the great things that are happening, because there's just a lot of excitement and positive momentum.
Man, like you just think about the foundation of trust that has to exist in order for those kind of vulnerable conversations to happen.
Transparency.
I mean, a leadership team being able to communicate directly and without ego.
Yeah.
And then for the rest of the team to be able to keep that, like protecting that that level, that base level of trust is incredible.
Right. Without that trust, you're bound to have things build up, right?
Totally.
Little resentments or problems that you're afraid to talk about.
Yeah.
And those things just linger, right?
Ugh.
They need to be worked out.
Yeah. So for somebody who is in an organization where trust is a little bit of a challenge, like I don't feel like I can be completely vulnerable with you, Libby.
I know it.
I don't feel like I can be completely vulnerable, or like if I say something wrong, I feel like you're going to take advantage of that or whatever. What is a word of advice that you would give to other leaders that are looking to really establish a deep level of trust inside of that organization?
So I think it starts from the top, right? Absolutely. Have to lead by example. And if there are organizations that are struggling with that, it's not easy, but over time, that culture can change just by exhibiting the types of behaviors that would be expected from everybody, and acknowledging vulnerability and being okay with that, because there has to be trust. There has to be openness, and that's how we're all going to work together to achieve our goals.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I 100% agree.
Yes.
Leaders are the ones who have to say, I'm going to be vulnerable right now. I'm going to show you, model what trust and vulnerability and open conversations look like. And that's a hard thing sometimes, depending on the makeup of that leadership team, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. When a leader is expected to be perfect in many ways, showing vulnerability and admitting that things didn't go right and they may be at fault, it's so important.
Yeah. Well, and I think we're in such an environment these days of like, social media putting on a front of this is what everything perfect looks like. And, and we were, snapshots of the end. We were just talking about, like, again, the gentleman that we had on earlier, he's worked for 15 years on his craft and then is a Broadway star, right? Like we talk about Olympians who have been like working their entire lives for this like singular moment, and all we see is the like that, reel. The highlight reel. But the reality is like running an organization, there's like so much work that has to happen, both from an inner standpoint and then how you show up for the team.
Oh, I can't imagine, especially in the case of the Olympian, how many failures there were along the way. Yeah. Those don't make it to Facebook, right?
No. You don't see that. You don't see all the no's. You don't see all the
all of the no's.
Heartache
and I think there's we're such a snapshot, immediate gratification type of environment that like the more that we can be real with each other around, hey, like, this is an area that I'm not strong in, or this is an area that I'm working on, allows for more of those types of conversations to continue to occur,
For sure. And that's why one of the great things about this company is that we all are in person and that we can be real with each other. Like we are there one-on-one. It can be more challenging, when it's remote work. But the fact that we're all there, we can get over this snapshot and this small view of reality and just be real with each other.
Yeah. Is that a big part of your culture? Is that you're in person?
We are. Yes.
Yeah. So talk to us about that philosophically, because we've had a lot of conversations around remote work versus in person.
It's fairly easy for our company to see the value in it because there's so much hands-on work, right? We do have one remote worker who's an engineer, does a lot of software work. Used to be in Austin and then moved with his family out of state. And we're fully supportive of him. He's doing a great job remotely. But again, his work has been largely in the software side.
Different, right?
Those that are hands-on do need to be in the office to do the work. But outside of that, just the ability to collaborate with one another. Our weekly meetings where we talk about behaviors and culture together in a conference room, not over Zoom, right? It just brings togetherness that reestablishes the fact that we're all working towards this common goal, all have the same end in mind of building something great, and we're all on the same team doing it together.
Love that.
I know. That's
awesome.
good.
Okay. if people want to learn more about the Shape Sensing Company, where do they go? How do they find out?
Our website is the best place to go. It's www.shapesensing.com.
Awesome.
And then I am on LinkedIn. I always love to connect with people. And
Ryan DeBoer.
Ryan DeBoer. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. And then if anybody who's looking to donate a big old chunk of money, just call Ryan directly.
Call me directly.
Perfect.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. This was such a pleasure talking to you and learning more about the company. It was really, really fascinating, and loved all of the tidbits and takeaways that we'll be able to pull from this.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course. All right. And thank you guys for joining us again. Please subscribe on all of those channels, all of the podcast channels, and we will see you again soon.